Oh, I'm wondering where enough trees are, but see how we go.
Yep, maybe it.
Let me hear as well. How many of them? How many big swings on the street? So I want this kind of trees to. That's good the way Harry's got it. We don't have to look at this now. That's it. Oh, we can share.
Sure. I didn't think last bit. It might be. Some funny with April 16th. Oh, well, I guess we'll kick off, eh? Or should we wait our 45 seconds as per our meeting day?
I'm wanting to go.
Yeah, we're in Coromandel, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right, well, so we'll kick off. Thank you very much. And it's great to see just such a good turnout from the community at our community board meetings. It's also great to note that this is our last meeting for winter. Into spring next time round. So, are there any apologies? I see the board's all here. So, none there. So, we'll now move into the public forum. Anybody in the forum wish to speak today?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So I'm here to represent the Maroon-Grey Wetland Society, and obviously to comment on the report. We support. We're very happy with Alan's report. Alan Tippay's report to the board. I think the options are well worked out. Very good outline of the situation, and I'm not going to take up too much of your time today. I'd just like to say that we support option 5, and that's it.
That's it? Okay, thanks, Pete.
Thomas, hi.
Hi, Thomas. How are you?
I was invited just the other day to give a presentation on climate change to the Wetland Association's AGM, and in preparing myself for that task, I did a bit of research on the impact of climate change on wetlands and impact of wetlands on climate change. And so the interesting research that came to light is that wetlands that have been impounded in the past, like this wetland used to be, back in the day, a salt marsh before people built up the road and then put a gate in and so forth. So back in the day, hundreds of years ago, free-flowing salt marsh. And so when you impound wetlands and the water begins to sweeten in the wetland, the biological processes in the wetland turn methanogenic. So the wetland produces methane rather than being a carbon sink. And research has been now found that there is a high potential for local governments and regions in America here as well to mitigate climate change by letting wetlands become salty again, which suppresses the methane generation. The sulfate in the salt water suppresses the methane generation. The biological processes in the wetland return to a state that suppresses the methane generation. And so research shows that per hectare, you can sequester as much methane with the same climate forcing as 10 cars, so per year. So this wetland, whether it's 5 hectares, in my mind, could have a climate change mitigation potential by having it cycling salt water again like it used to in the past, of about 50 cars per year. the same climate impact. And as I believe that the zero carbon bill would require all local governments to look for ways to in their region, in their township, to work towards climate mitigation efforts. Having the gate out and having the saltwater cycling freely back in the salt marsh makes that a potential for you to have. And I think I've been tabling this in table to a document that I've put together briefly, where I cited some of the literature and some of the considerations about that. Also, we had, as a school project, I put a salt water data logger last year into the wetland, not even knowing what the issues were, and we found that the salt content in the water was far below the level required to turn the wetland into a methane, or to prevent the methane generation from the wetland. So at the moment, when the gate was in there, the wetland would, in my mind, have created quite a bit of methane because it was, again, sweetened and caused that process to happen. So with the gate out, it'll be interesting to see what it is. I've got my data logger with me again. We'll put it in again, and we'll see what the outcome might be.
Interesting. Thank you.
So,
yep, you can leave that there, and Margaret will able to help. Yep. Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
229 Long Bay Road. Having read the updated report of the 17th of August and Alan Titlady's report, I just wanted to clarify a couple of points from our point of view. Both reports read that the neighbouring property owners are acting as one. This is definitely not the case. And as the owners of one of the neighbouring properties, 2290 Long Bay Road, we are not requesting the immediate installation of the gate, and we have not made any legal representations to seek an environmental court declaration. Basically, looking at the various options, personally, we're quite happy with the option number 3, which is the do nothing approach. Sort of consider the rest, but we would not be making any legal challenges as a landowner. And consider the others very expensive and perhaps unnecessary. We're happy with the current situation as it is, but just wanted to make clear that we are not acting as one. Very quite fine.
Yep. Noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please do.
Hello, I'm Julie Satchison. I'm there's 4 landowners who share a boundary with the wetland, and I'd just like to emphasise what Philippa was saying, that often we're referred to as the landowners, think this, think that, say this, say that, and it's not like that. There's 2 of us landowners who support the current situation and enjoying seeing this a high salt tide come right through the wetlands. And so, yes, so there's 2 landowners who are both having a lagoon, and I've done a lot of planting, and don't think the same as wanting the gate down. We very much want the current situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, so which option do you prefer? There's a couple of there.
The current situation.
Just the current.
Or what was number 5, I think.
Number 5 is
Number 5
was monitoring.
with monitoring.
Yeah, that, the gate down and monitoring them.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Like Carol?
Carol, and my concern as an individual is last time I was here I presented some papers, although I did not speak to it, and I find myself repeating things because in that report that was tabled, I wish to clarify some things. I think we really need to understand definition of an estuarine wetland, because I see this repeated that the wetland was created by the gate. That is incorrect. It has always been an estuarine wetland way before any settlement came to this land. So I would like that to be acknowledged. by this board that that is actually incorrect, that the wetland was created by a gate. I don't know where that assumption ever came. And so I have sent this through using a Department of Conservation definition of an estuarine wetland. You can look up Ramsar's definition or even the Regional Council's definition. And it's quite clear what an estuarine wetland is. And I think you might think this is a bit picky or something, but if we're discussing a wetland, we need to agree upon a definition of it. The other thing that I have addressed in this, and it kind of reflects what the last two speakers have said, the paper gives an impression that the only people of consequence really are the people that are challenging the TCDC on lawyers. There are other people, other stakeholders surrounding this wetland. And I believe equity should come into decision making, equity towards all stakeholders. And this report, I would like to see noted that there are other interests and some people want to see the gate out, two of the forelanders want to see the gate out. And this is a record. And believe me, going through all the records way back in time concerning this, where you have something that is incorrect, it is really, really hard to change it. So I would like to challenge it now. And I would like to see more reflection of the stakeholders around in the report. And I would like to see fact put in the reports. Yeah, and that's all I wish to say is, you know, other people have spoken on options, but I believe documentation must be correct.
Yep. Thank you, Carol. Any questions for Carol? No? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Anybody else wish to speak today?
Yes.
Yes, please.
So, well, you all know me. So I would just like to know, if somebody can tell me, when was the law changed that said it's okay to flood private property with salt water? And when was the law changed to say that vandalism is okay if you get your own way? Can anybody answer that?
It's not the forum.
It seems to me now that whoever did this is going to be rewarded. So what if we decide we don't like a tree somewhere on council property and we go and chop it down? Is that going to be okay? Anyone got any answers?
I get your point, but this is public forum and it's your chance to speak to us and we can't necessarily answer you straight away.
Well, I just wanted to put it out there anyway, because it seems to me that this vandalism is being rewarded and we've got no say at all. And it just doesn't seem right. Okay?
Thank you, Mel. Any questions for Mel? No, thank you. Okay. Are there any other speakers for public forum? There being none, I'll move that the speakers be accepted.
Second that.
All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Next item is items not on the agenda. I'm not aware of any. Conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to declare?
I work for Kilt, and so through the funding, Kilt just put in the application. So I'd like to say that I have a conflict of interest in.
Okay.
Thanks, Jen.
And I may do too.
Which one?
I can't remember.
That's right, when it comes time,
Yeah.
if you could declare it.
Yes, I will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the people with conflicts of interest will not be speaking on their matter when it comes up on the committee grant program. Okay, we have to move those. We have to move the conflict of interest.
Yes.
So I'd be happy to move that those conflict of
Second.
interest declarations be accepted. Seconded by Jan. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Minutes for confirmation. These have been previously circulated.
Happy to move those, Peter.
Happy to move
Yeah.
that.
Second.
Second by Jan. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Yeah, that's the plan, yeah. Okay, so now we're to section 2, community management, and all acknowledgement of the interest in item 2, we'll bring that forward because the community grants process discussion can take quite some time. So we'll move on to item 2, McGregor Bay Wetland Flat. And there's a report here by Alan.
Oh, sorry, Alan, I did too. You're at the presenter's chair.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't planning to add any further discussion to the report. So it's on page 380, way through the agenda on page 380. So I wasn't planning on elaborating any further on what's in the report. I believe everything that's in the report is quite clear.
Yes.
And as we're all aware, we've discussed this matter many times previously, so we're all familiar with the history of it. So the report identifies 6 potential options for you to consider, and just leave it on the table for discussion, Mr. Chair.
There was some feedback in public forum about some of the wording in the report about landowners being lumped together when actually they're apart and things like that. I'm just wondering about the procedure about getting that acknowledged, that there could be some.
Yeah, well, Mr. Chairman, that will be recorded as part of the minutes, anyway, as part of the public forum in the minutes. Okay, so it will be recorded there. That certainly wasn't the intent of the report. It was there are property owners who do want the gate to be retained in place, and acknowledge there are some that have a contrary view to that as well.
Okay, so the report has been circulated and previously read. Any discussion? Anybody want to add anything in particular before we move through the living options and work out a resolution?
I will actually just mention one thing if I can, Peter. That is, the gate has been removed. This is to address your concern in the public forum, Marilyn. The gate has been removed. Complaints have been made to the police about the removal of that, so we not accepting the vandalism. The reality of the fact is that the gate was removed, it was reported to the police, and it was an act of vandalism, and it was dealt with at the time, okay? Obviously, the police have not been able to identify who removed the gate and got us into the current situation. So that's the status of that.
Also, first we should add to that when the gate was removed, we went to WRC and said we would like to put the gate back in.
Yes.
WRC directed us very strongly that legally, would have, if we reinstated the gate, it would be an illegal act on the part of the council. So we have to act in accord with the legal direction that we've received from WRC.
Totally. So before we got into this, I just thought I'd like to set that straight, okay?
It's actually a previous item too, because it was removed and replaced.
Yes.
To protect the landowner's land.
Yes.
And then again removed. So we did attempt to look after the landowner's land, and now we are unable to repeat that exercise because we've been in receipt of legal advice that says we cannot do that. So that removes option 1, which is to reinstate the flat without consent. That's no longer an option. So we go from the 6 options to 5.
Correct.
Everyone agree on that?
Yep.
Okay, so then we have different options. Number 2, which is apply for resource consent. Number 4 also involves applying for resource consent, and number 6 involves seeking an Environment Court declaration. So is there any interest amongst the board in spending further money applying for resource consents to legalise our position with a view to reinstating the gate at a later date?
No, I believe my point of view is this ward has spent a significant amount of money so far on the McGregor Bay wetland, and it's at this stage the expenses keep on mounting up in front of us, and they're getting quite large. It's unbudgeted. We don't have that money. I've got no appetite to spend considerable amounts of money, ratepayers' money, on it at this stage.
I actually agree with John on that, and because it's not a certainty. We can do all these applications and there's not a certain response. So I don't believe that that's a viable option either.
And perhaps I'd just like to add to that, in that it would be the expense of getting a proper gate. It would have to be redesigned, engineered, and the cost of that, because the other one, last time we were able to put up the existing gate. Well, I understand now that that gate has been removed completely and it's not even an option to be put up anyway. So a new gate would have to be made. So the cost of that would add to that. That would have to be part, I presume, of the consent, any sort of consents that went forth. So there's that huge added cost. And then agreeing on what type of gate needs to go in, etc. So all of that makes that a very expensive option that we, as you say, haven't budgeted for.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. We haven't got any money. It's as simple as that. We don't have money and we shouldn't be wasting it.
So if we do not consider number 2, number 4 or number 6, that leaves option 3 and option 5, which is option 3, not apply for resource consent and leave the wetland without any control structure. Or option 5, leave the flat gate out and initiate a monitoring program to measure the impact of the seawater on neighbouring properties and the wetland environment. So one involves monitoring and one doesn't, basically. We just need to clarify which of those 2 options is the better one. Better for who, and also what monitoring might look like. To me, anything that flows from land to sea is the WRC topic. And would that be fair to say that WRC would monitor outflow from land to sea all around the peninsula anyway?
Mr. Chairman, it's not fair to say that they will do it.
No.
What is fair to say is that it would be that the management of the marine environment is a WRC function,
Yes.
not a TCDC function.
Yep.
So if that were to be done, then yes, that would be a WRC decision, I guess.
Yep.
Not a TCDC one.
So that is their role.
Yes, part of their role.
That's part of their role. I'm actually happy to move option 3 with as a resolution.
Yep.
Let me just check. It doesn't involve the monitoring, does it? No.
No, it doesn't.
No, I'd be happy to move option 3. And if there's any monitoring that needs to be done, then anybody who has any concerns about the flow from that wetlands out to sea could notify the appropriate authority, which is WRC, if they do have those concerns. So I'll move option 3.
Anybody else have okay, do we have a seconder? We've got a mover. Do we have a seconder?
Jean,
Jean?
second.
Okay, so the resolution would be that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board receives the McGregor's Bay Wetland Flatgate report dated 28th July 2021 and recommend to Council that they not apply for resource consent and leave the wetland without any control structure. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, the next item on our agenda is the Coromandel-Colville Community Board grant.
No. It's Parkinson. We've done the good today.
But we jumped over the grants.
Yeah, it's moved on to here. That was the point of view statement. Yeah, get last.
It's going to be next.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it is.
And I think we're in charge of letting people on, and are they on?
Okay.
So what are we moving on to, guys?
So this order of service here, item 2.1 has moved to down to 11:50.
Correct.
Even though it still says 9:35 here, it's saying.
Chair to move this item to be considered later.
Later on the agenda.
Right,
Yeah.
so we're going to move item 2.1 to the end of the agenda to be held differently. And I think Margaret's done that because it's just before lunch and we'll rush through
Did not do this. This was done by governance, thank you.
Okay, so now we're on to 3.1 then, which is the 21-22 Coromandel-Colville Parks Works Programme. Ms. Thompson. So what page is this on? This doesn't.
Yeah, what page is it?
Page 389.
Oh, here he is, he's joined.
Very good. Thank you, Jan. Yeah, they didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
No page.
Mine
Hey, you
did,
two, cut it out.
because I've got
How did you
copies.
not put the stick here for?
And then what is here?
Something's wrong, it must be bubbles.
Okay.
Okay,
So basically the resolution is just to receive this report. Is there anything that Derek would like to say in regard to his report? Hello, Derek.
Good morning, board. No, it's fairly self-explanatory, but I'm happy to answer questions.
I have,
Yes, Dan, yeah.
right, is the current identified budget of 15,158, does that come off the 136,187?
No, they're two entirely separate budgets. So,
Okay,
the 136 is built up over, from the renewals, and so figuring out how many assets we've got and how much we need to replace. The other minor works project is to do new work, to implement new assets or new projects.
okay. So our barbecue, etc., doesn't come out of this money that we've got, that we had in the reserve. So the 136,000 is the lump sum that we've got to work with from now on
For this financial.
for this
year,
financial year.
To
Yes.
replace or
Yeah,
fix up the various things in the asset register
Yes.
that they are due.
yeah, okey doke. If there's any of that money left over then, do we get to retain it if we don't use it within the, I presume it finishes in June next year? Do we?
Yeah, so I'd just like to remind the board as well that last financial year we had to take a reduction in our budget due to the COVID response. And so even though it sounds like quite a large sum of money, and it is quite a large sum of money, it's going to be all needed to replace and renew assets that you've currently got in your portfolio. So
Okay.
I'm anticipating that it will be pretty much all used. What isn't used will be fairly minimal at the end of the financial year, and it goes into a wash up, a pool of money at the end of the year, which council addresses however it sees fit.
That's the answer. That's what I wanted to find out, whether it will be taken off if we don't use it all enough. It would be.
So Derek, the only identified project in this report is for Long Bay Carry Walk. Is there any opportunity for other projects, or will all the money be required for that?
Well, if the board indicates that that's something that they didn't want to support, or that there's something else that they believe is more worthy, then please put it on the table now.
We don't have to decide that now, do we? Do we have to decide that now?
Or you might want to say, look, can you hold off, and we'll come back to you.
It's a budget, so that means potentially 136k could go to
No.
that.
The 136,000 is for all of these things.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
15,000 is for the Long Bay Carry Walk.
Yeah.
Go back. Two separate budgets.
Okay, thank you. So that Long Bay Carry budget wouldn't swallow up all that 15,000, but I'm not aware of any other projects. Any other
No,
projects?
no,
Given it's
no.
quite short notice, but yeah, I can see that sum, and then probably more than that sum would be needed for Long Bay Carry Walk, would it?
Yes, what we're doing is we're actually matching up with funding that Forest and Bird have received independently. to do enhancements, particularly around the trailheads, interpretation and such like.
Yeah, I see that comes up further on, later on today.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no further discussion then I'll just move that the 21-22 Parks Works Programme report dated 2nd July 21 be accepted.
Yeah.
Seconded by Jan. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you very much, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Have a good day.
Right, so the new amended programme says that we have got item 4.1, Jane Andrews, Waihiri Bay road change.
Makariri, yeah.
You got a page number for there?
390.
Thank you very much.
It's just following on from.
Scrolling ahead. Okay, once again, a very good report. It's very straightforward.
Yeah.
Jane may be waiting in the wings. To
Yes, good morning, everyone. Yes.
Morning,
Good
Jane.
morning.
Yeah. It's just a basic subdivision. There's 2 access lots to be created. So the applicant has put forward 2 proposed road names for each of those access lots. They will be privately owned, but do need road names due to the number of lots that are going to be coming off them.
I'm happy to move it.
Yep. Moved by John.
Yeah, I'll second, yeah.
Second by Jan. So the resolution, I'll just take it as read. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against. Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I did think Falling Waters Lane was a bit of a mouthful, and maybe they could change it to Waterfall Lane, but it's too late. It's already.
And Falling Waters are the same thing.
Aye.
So it could have been.
So it's just a translated version of
Yes.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was in there, wasn't it?
It's in the options, yeah, and the name refers to the manner of which the fee was charges.
Yeah.
But there was no option for Waihiri Lane.
That's good.
Alrighty, so now we can adjourn for morning tea if we want to, or we can. Pardon?
Did we get a move?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have. So should we have a cup of tea? We don't want to rush things because we have got a lunch book for today, and
We want to be around.
I actually wouldn't mind a break now. Yeah, that'd be great.
all right. So we'll just adjourn. We'll reconvene in minutes.
Is that stop?